Hello everyone and welcome back once again. Today I've got let's call it a treat. To my recollection, we've never done a Porsche on this channel, and this is going to be a beautiful first. Now, I'm not entirely certain what the difference is between a 911 and a 912, but I'm not putting a motor in it or anything, so I think I might be able to sneak away with using a 911 body. And just for reference, I did ask the Porsche expert. That particular expert in this case is the owner of this car, James. To further emphasize the firsts on this channel, I have never done a Mini GT model either. This is going to be a lot of fun. What do you say we get started? First, I've got to get it out of the package, of course, and then do a little bit of inspection. My reasoning behind that is that I'm not entirely sure how a Mini GT is put together. If it's like Mattel and it has studs, well, that's one thing. I can drill out the studs, no problem. But I don't think this is going to go that way. Man, just look at the details. Oh, yep, there are screws. Oh well. I may need to clarify a little bit. I'm not entirely opposed to these models having screws, but I tend to lose them, like I'm going to do with this mirror. Don't worry, I found the mirror after I shot the video. It's back on the car. I should probably have put it in the totes with the rest of the parts, but I was really excited about getting started on this ride. Alrighty, I'll put this aside for what was supposed to be safekeeping and start tearing apart the rest of the car. I have to tell you, I am extremely impressed with the level of detail on this body. You probably won't be able to see it very well, but every piece is individualized except for the minor things like the bumperettes. Everything else on the body came apart fairly easily, but the windshield, for whatever reason, gave me hell. And of course, because it's so small, I was terrified to lose any of the little bitty pieces. I knew it would eventually succumb. Now it's just a matter of punching out the rear bumper and the grille, and we should be able to get this thing off to the goo. I fiddled with the headlights for a minute because I thought they were plastic, but they were not. Let's get this thing into the goo. After the goo has done its thing, of course, I've got to rinse it off. Then I'll polish it up and get it into primer. While there's a little bit of dead air here, let me give a special thanks to James for allowing us to take care of this amazing build for him. You're going to be seeing quite a few of his cars here fairly soon. In the meantime, let me suggest that you go to YouTube and look up Sovereign. It's vintage racing at its finest. So cool. I don't exactly know all the connections between this car and the Sovereign Racing League, but I can tell you that this car has been on the track at Laguna Seca, and I am really jealous of that fact. James told me it's been to several other tracks, but Laguna Seca is the one that I'm concerned with. Man, we're moving right along. Primer time. Not exactly sure what happened to my primer here, but it took me 3 times to get enough out to cover the car. And this is not a large car. First world problems, I guess. You're almost there, Vic. Keep going. There we go. Now that there's actually enough primer on the car, I'll let it dry up and move it directly into paint. While the paint's drying, I'm going to decide on what to do about the wheels. Now, you see, this is a true 1/64 scale model. If you ever actually measure a Mattel model, you'll notice that it's never quite 1/64 scale. In fact, most of the time they're actually either way too small or way too big. Mattel does this with Hot Wheels and Matchbox to kind of fill the blister. Companies like Auto World, M2, and even Mini GT just aren't concerned with that. Their primary concern is accuracy. Since I don't have any rubber that's going to be small enough to fit into the wheel wells of this car, I have to use the original tires. This in turn means that I will have to be exactly as accurate as Mini GT was when they originally produced the car. Let's get this windshield put back in and see what we can do about some decals. It was a nightmare to get out, but it just snapped right back in. And since the racing stripe crosses over the grille, I might as well put it back in as well. Man, that looks good. Thank goodness for good starting base models. Now, normally I would show you the process of creating the decals, but for whatever reason I could not get my computer to agree to do that. I apologize for that, but at least you get to see me size them. Well, there are a few minor scaling alterations to do, but it looks pretty good. I will, however, need to put both bumpers back on before I put the racing stripe down. That is, if I can remember which bumper goes where. It is, after all, a Porsche, so there are those out there that would forgive my confusion. There we go. It's already starting to look more like a Porsche again. I can't forget to put these taillights back in either. Another of the many, many microscopic parts that were on this car. Okay, let's get the decals put on and start getting this thing put back together. I will say this about the racing stripe. Although it was a bit fiddly, it was far easier to put on than a lot of the ones that I've done so far. I think the elevated fenders had a lot to do with that. Once I've put the rest of the stripes centered across the top of the car, I'll cut out the windows and grille. It just seemed a bit easier that way. Something else that made everything quite a bit easier is that the interior is already black and it's already a sports interior. All right, let's put these screws back in. Yes, I did save them. Just to do a little bit of comparison work here, I'd like you to take a look at this box that I bring up on screen. Can you see the taillights that are sitting on top of it? There's one right there. Well, you might be able to see it if my camera will focus. There we go. Just a little bit more fiddling and preparation on the wheels, and I think we might have kicked this pig. Of course, I'll have to pass them off to Foggy to finish them because I cannot see that small, even with my new glasses. I think that's enough messing around. Let's take one good look at the car before we head on to the thanks and the glamour shots.